Speak with my friends in the studio. Madiz Adamu Isa is an education specialist with UNICEF, Dr. Educhum, Deputy Minister of Education, and Emmanuel Afol, certified Cambridge IGC ASE A-level English language tutor. Let me start with you, Madiz. So we have looked at the data that shows that so many children are not in school at the right age. We've looked at the data that shows how important it is to put them in school at the right age. But really, what does it do to a country when we see 723,000 children of primary age in kindergarten?
Thank you, Daniel. But I would want to start from a positive note. If we say that some children are not in KG, that's right. But we should also note that as a country, we've managed to put 75% of the children who should be in KG. So there are about 25% of them who should be in KG but are not there. And places have been taken by those who are over age. As a country, when the children are not there, we lose a lot. Let's start from even the children themselves. You'll be studying with children who are far older than you, so bullying is a problem there. The teachers do not know whether to come to the level of the 4-year-old or teach at the level of the 8 or 9 or 10-year-old. I've seen children who are about 11 years old in KG. The mothers cannot work because they have to take care of their children. And in some cases, even older siblings, especially girls, are forced to stay home to take care of children. So it's not just the children who lose out. The country loses out. And then let's talk about when children grow up, their working life. Some children, some men, as old as 30 years, are in school. And their parents are the ones fending for them. So you see straight away that their working life will be short. By the time they finish basic school, go to secondary school, university, they're already over 30. How many years are they going to work for the country before they retire? But if they start at the right age, by 22, 23, they might have finished university. And they work for some 30, 40 years before they even retire. So it has a whole lot of benefits for the children themselves, their families, and the nation.
So there are issues of productivity in there. There are issues of the mental well-being of the child in there.
Exactly.
I remember the OECD education ranking. In his comments, the head of OECD, Andreas Schleider, said that if children up to the age of 14 could read and write in a country like Ghana, and he used Ghana as an example, our GDP could multiply by some 37 times. And so, Dr. Educhum, even though a lot of work has been done and a lot of children are in school at the right age, it's still imperative that we put interventions in place to get children to school at the right time, no?
Yeah, definitely. And as I said earlier in our conversation before the show, Ghana has done pretty well. Even in most advanced countries, you don't have mandatory 2 years KG. I don't know of any advanced country that gives you 2 years of public KG education, and Ghana has done pretty well making KG 2 years. But it also means that we have to do it well. We have to make sure, first of all, everybody is in, and we also have to ensure that they are in at the right age, and you don't have situations where we are wasting space because the system is not being effective. But yes, I agree with you that everybody should be in school because of the tremendous benefit that they get. In other jurisdictions, this is called early start, and it really speaks to the fact that if you give them that start, it really gives them early start, not just in education, but early start in life, in a whole facets of their life and educational career. They have tremendous benefit when they get this KG education, and especially the fact that they start at 4 and 5 when their brain is fast developing, and that is the time that you really put education to the best use for the child. And so I can agree with you in terms of the fact that we have not had 100%, but I also will commend the President Kufuor, whose era this innovation of 2 years KG became part of the public education system. I really want to commend him for the foresight in making this possible, because it will have huge implications for the development of our nation.
Before you go ahead, let me come to you, Emmanuel, as well. Now, you have been in a classroom with children who are over age, and you have had the first-hand experience with dealing with children like this. How is that like?
Well, Good morning, everybody. I think it's a worrying situation. It's quite a difficult terrain to manage because, of course, as the gentleman said, there are issues of bullying, so you need to be very careful to handle them. We live in a society where really age cannot determine maturity, because different parents, based on the exigencies of today's life, will take their children to school at different ages. So I'm looking at the policy, and I'm happy the minister has spoken about the fact that we are doing well. But I would not say because we are doing well, we should clap for ourselves. But I think that a lot more can be done. It's very, very difficult to handle that situation. Especially, I teach classes 9, 10, 11, up to class 12. And if you have some, typically IGCSE starts from age 14. So you assume that everybody starting the IGCSE program will be 14. But we are in a school where we take children from the BECE schools, because some parents may want their children to start the international program right after BECE. They come in at 15 or 16. And that's where the issue actually starts. So it's really a very difficult area to manage. But of course, if through training and workshops and reading, we're able to handle such situations. But it's not an ideal situation to have.
Okay. Typically, what are the, and Madis mentioned some of the challenges that these children face, but what are the challenges that you have seen children deal with as a result of having to go to school older than they are?
You see, if you look at children from ages 3, 4, 5, their brains are almost comparable to a sponge. Anything that touches it is actually caught, So that is a time, I call it a critical age of language learning, for example. And every child starts learning from language. If we are able to get that part right, where they understand concepts in terms of language, they're able to say the very basic things in life, it helps them a lot. Now, we have a situation where if the child misses that part of their education or his or her education, it actually catches up with them in later life. Currently, I'm helping children who are 16-year-olds to learn to read text for class 6. And it's simply because they lost out on the beginning. And so it's quite a problem, really, especially for those of us who teach language. It's really, really, really difficult.
Okay, so we are drawing on Emmanuel's experience, but let's come and look at what the policy has done and what the policy seeks to achieve. Dr. Edichum, really, and even in the NDC, in the MPP's manifesto, when campaigning for 2016, it said that, and I'm reading here, the MPP again says it will embark on a vigorous program to ensure that kindergarten schools are available for all 4-year-old children in the country. Right. The quote here says the creation of early childhood and kindergarten teachers will be prioritized to reflect the importance we attach to the provision of equal opportunities for children from all backgrounds. I love the emphasis on from all backgrounds here. Currently, we know there's a deficit of about 1,172 kindergarten schools for children if you compare to primary schools. So what are we doing to bridge that gap?
Thank you for the opportunity in terms of this particular question. We have, at the Ministry of Education, embarked on a program to really ensure that we bridge the gap. Because what has happened is that a number of communities don't have KGs. And I think my colleague here alluded to the fact that even if you have a KG and it's not in close proximity to their primary school, you're going to have a situation where, or their community, the KG is there, but a 4-year-old cannot walk and the parent cannot drive. So that's why the equity element is critical. If you build KGs in urban areas like Accra, transportation may not be a big issue, even if we deem it a challenge. But if you go to communities where schools are 2 miles away, if their KG is 2 miles away and that child cannot walk, you have not done anything. So our distribution of KGs is so critical. And at the Ministry of Education, we did an analysis and saw that there was a deficit. What it means is that we need KGs at every primary school. Primary schools are known to be close to various communities. So we have started the process of building. In fact, there are about 22 of them that we are commissioning this year. There are 72 KGs that we've begun construction of. And we are hoping that, I wish this was TV so people can see the images. They are beautiful. The ones that we've commissioned some of them just this last week. And we're going to commission a number of them during the year. And next year, we are going to have to engage various actors in supporting the course and making sure that not only are we doing the buildings, but also the curricula is being developed in such a way that it will meet the 21st century needs of this country. And I really want to commend UNICEF. UNICEF have dedicated their resources and time to early grade education, and it is yielding fruits because now they are training teachers, they are training trainers who are then going to be the trainer of trainers. So, and then they are supporting the development of learning materials for the KGs. So we are not just looking at the buildings, we're also looking at how do we make sure that there are appropriate learning materials that teachers can use, and how do we make sure that teachers are trained to really work with the children. Because when you just finish with the infrastructure, sometimes you'll be disappointed to go then and see that instruction is not taking place. So there are different things. We're even changing the way the furniture is designed in such a way that they said that the furniture that's coming from the ministry now to KGs, I think they are circular type.
Yeah, they are circular.
So that kids can sit around it. Things are changing. And those are the kind of spaces we need to even create in primary schools, in primary one. You see, when they sit in circular, they are getting so many benefits because now they are looking at how do we collaborate, how do we work together. So the kind of things that we talk about all the time, that learning should not be by rote memorizations, teachers should not be the sage on stage. Teacher knows all, and I'm just going to dictate to the children, and they will dictate it back to me after 3 months, and therefore they are the smartest kids in the world. That is not how 21st century learning takes place. And I think the KGs that we are developing, that is how it's being developed. So you're not going to see the monodecks. You're going to see situations where kids are seated differently, so that we can begin to build on those 21st century teaching and learning practices of students working together and teachers as facilitators of learning and not the dispensers of knowledge. And I think the KG opportunity is what we want to build on so that we can really ramping up, going up in the primary schools. So basically, the KG start is critical.
Okay.
And if it started right, it does tremendous magic in terms of how the children become and in terms of how, not just through the school system, but after they graduate from our school system.
Great. So these 72 schools that are going to be started, what funding? Is it GOG funding or?
Yeah, this is GOG funding. Some of them are done. Some of the contractors did very well. A number of them, I'll send you the pictures. We've commissioned some of them. I think you were part of the Nyakrum was commissioned by the second lady.
And this is one of the, because you mentioned two numbers, sorry. You mentioned that 22 are going to be commissioned
this year.
And you said that 72 are going to be started.
No, actually we began with 72.
Okay.
22 of them are completed or very close to completion.
So we are left with 50.
Yeah. The next few weeks, most of them will be commissioned. Actually, I'm going to commission one in my constituency on Tuesday. Very beautiful one. And
Wosomtwe.
And the parents are anxiously waiting for the school to open. So that is an area where we really want to focus at the Ministry of Education, that we have good places for the kids to study, and then we have to change our teaching and learning practices.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask so that I know that we have factored it into the budget for next year, that the funding lines would continue for the contractors to be able to finish the work.
Actually it's for this year's budget. So
it's in this year's budget.
Yeah, by December we'll probably finish most of them.
Okay.
Not next year.
All right. Thank you. Let's look at what you were talking about in terms of curriculum for the schools. Does that mean that in training of the teachers who will be working in the schools, their curriculum will also be changed to suit this new design and this new idea we have for KG education?
Yes, please. Actually, there has been a major curricular reform undertaken by NACA, National Council for Curriculum and Assessment. And the KG to third grade, our primary 3 curriculum is already done. and they've piloted in a few schools, and they are going to be rolling it out. Actually, it's being rolled out this year. And the genesis of it was to just look at, you see, education as a tool for national socioeconomic transformation does not become a reality even when you grant access to everyone, unless you make sure students are being taught right. And the content of the material that they are learning also appropriate for your national goals and transformation agenda. Issues like what in education is called the hidden curriculum, which is about not just the fact that the kids are in school, but the messages you are giving to them about patriotism, about the idea of actually dedicating yourself to your country, and the idea of ensuring that you understand issues as germane as how I deal with my neighbor, how I work collaboratively with people. In the real world, that is how people become successful. You can know all the facts in your head. You walk into a workplace and you may be the worst worker because you have not been taught how to collaborate. You've not been taught how to communicate. You've not been taught a number of things that really help you excel. So this new curriculum had those things that are called the cross-cutting concepts, which enables students to be taught differently. And there has been a number of workshops that has been done, and teachers are going to be trained. Materials are being developed, and beginning with the KG, 2 years, and moving on to the early grades, which some people think goes up to about primary 3. So we are in a exciting time, and what we are trying to do now is to begin to underscore the importance of teaching the way we teach and the way we learn.
Okay.
Because otherwise, the idea of what they call chew pour,
pass and forget.
I call it
We've done some.
I think it's chew pour, fail and forget, because most people don't pass with it though. A few people are lucky.
Yeah.
You see, there are a lot of people who don't work very well when they have to memorize. And sometimes they are the brightest and the most creative among us. But we do that and exclude the vast majority of our people who are more creative than us. We pass because we could memorize. There are some people who are so creative and they are not going to memorize the facts for you, but they can create something for you. And if we keep on emphasizing the memorization so that the auditory learners prevail, all the other type of learners are not going to succeed.
Indeed. Let me come to you, Madiz. You see, there is also the idea of schools being attractive for students to come to in the first place, and schools providing the outcomes that parents would want to send their children to, so that they know that they're going to get a certain outcome from. In that direction, how do you think we can improve our school spaces, or let's say our sector, so that students and parents can have confidence to send their children to school?
Okay, thank you, Daniel. With your permission, I want to step back and add something to what
Of course.
said. It's about the question about curriculum. I'll take it a little further because he mentioned the workshops for teachers. You know, teachers are very critical in this sector. And right now we have 3 types of teachers at the kindergarten level. Those who are not trained at all, they are not professional teachers. So maybe somebody left secondary school or in the olden days, middle school or JHS, and became a teacher at kindergarten. There are those who are trained, but not trained to teach at the kindergarten level. And then there are few who are trained purposely for kindergarten. So if we do not handle all these types of teachers very well, the curriculum will be good, but the teachers to implement the curriculum will be a challenge. That's why the workshops are also critical. Okay, back to your point about attraction, making
the school spaces attractive for students to enroll.
Yes, we know kids love a lot of things that are attractive to them, that will make them want to go to school. We've been to places where, you know, the schools are not places that children would want to go to. Maybe the classrooms, the walls are not attractive enough. There are no talking walls in education. And let me say that I'm a teacher. I trained in the best college of education in Ghana, Atebu Training College.
My father would disagree with you. He trained in Commander.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'll debate him later. Yes, you know, talking walls where you have maybe posters and pictures and a lot of things on the walls. A school where, you know, you have recreation facilities. Children want to go there. They feel good. And some of them, if the school is even more better than their own homes, they get there before the teachers get in. But if you have a school where children have to sit on the floor, where children have to sit on chairs that are not comfortable, if bullying takes place in the schools, all this will not attract the children to school. And that's an area where we have a lot of challenges.
So it comes back to resourcing the schools and providing infrastructure.
Yes, exactly.
I'm curious about the points that you raised earlier. In fact, I just received this thought from an educationist who is listening in, and he says that since the foundations of the children's education is very crucial, shouldn't there be a policy that teachers of a certain caliber, standard and experience are employed to handle these kids with a robust quality control and supervision?
Sure.
Oh, Dr. Edishim, you want to come in on that?
If I can interject.
Yeah.
First of all, until this year, we know that our colleges of education, where we're getting the vast majority of our teachers from, especially at the pre-senior high school level, we're doing a diploma. And with all due respect, if you want to create a 21st century learning environment and you ask somebody to just go for 2 years and do 1 year practicum, it's not going to get you the robust kind of learning environment that we are talking about. And this October, all colleges of education are going to offer bachelor's degree. 4 years. So you're going to have 4 years of learning your pedagogy and content before you have 1 year where you go out there and you do your induction and become a professional teacher. So this initiative by the Minister for Education, which of course was approved by Cabinet, was something that had to be done for us to even begin the conversation that the teachers who are going to go to the school have been given the right amount of years and that we are comparable to other countries in the world. So that's a very good start. And also some schools have been designated, some colleges of education are now going to specialize in early childhood education. So you're going to have people who come out with a bachelor's degree in early childhood education and they are going to staff the KGs and maybe up to primary 1 and 2. And these are people who really have the requisite experience and knowledge set to begin the process of teaching in our early grade school. So yes, I think it's important, and I think we are on the right direction in terms of looking at those who teach in the environment. And of course, those who are already there, you have to find a way to upgrade them so that you can really change the learning environment, because nothing compares to a quality teacher, somebody who knows what she or he is doing and can really impact kids in a very positive manner.
Let me come to you, Emmanuel. Hearing these suggestions and these policies that the ministry is proposing, as a practitioner in the field, are you more comforted?
Well, refreshing. To be honest with you, my only regret is that we know we say better late than ever. I think that teaching evolved several years back. And my worry is why it has taken us this long to realize this. I mean, I've always said this on any platform that I go. 30 years ago, I was in a primary school. The method, the approach my teacher used in teaching me English is the same approach we are using now, today. So it's refreshing to note that something different is going to be done. To be sincere with you, it's one of the reasons I left the public space. Because even if you are creative enough to make sure your lessons impact, the system will not sustain you. That is something we have to fight. We need to also look at training and equipping the teachers. Doc talked about 4 years. Good. But it really wouldn't solve the problem, because see, it's not about the number of years you spend that to give you quality teaching. Access to information, access to pedagogical content. For example, I mean, I teach 3 classes. Class 9, ABC. When I go to class 9A, the method is different from class 9B. Because they are not the same set of students.
Okay.
They have different learning abilities. So you talk about what you call eclecticism in teaching, where you blend the teaching method.
So your point is that these teachers must have access to information that would enable them apply these skills.
So we have best practices all over the world.
Okay.
You know, I think that these definitions, and as Doc said earlier, we must move away from the way we do things, Daniel. We must really move away. Because if you look at today's child, the child is capable of knowing a lot if the teacher
Okay.
is really at the center.
Okay.
If the teacher is really at the center. Let me talk about this, Daniel.
In a minute, please.
So we must also look at the kind of people who we enroll into the space called teaching. Growing up, we heard that teaching was the noblest profession. I don't know whether it has changed. But I believe that
Okay.
currently we have a lot of people who
Right.
are teaching not because they wanted to be teachers,
Right.
but they are teaching because they didn't get their dream jobs. Those people are the ones we should be talking about and training
Okay.
so that issues of abuse will be eliminated today.
Okay. So that mindset must leave.
They must leave the system.
It must leave the system. I'll not challenge you on that because it's something that we have. It's a mindset that we have come across on a number of occasions. But I'm sure that some people
that point about
elsewhere on
some
the
of them are
table.
teaching because they didn't get their dream job. It's something.
Dr.
that we-
Dr. Educhum, what is the cutoff
Is it
point
not-
for entering? Excuse me, what is the cutoff point for entering and training college in this country?
Okay, now
Messages.
you see, because of the new requirement. if
And
you talk
let
about-
me say
because
that
a
these are
four-year
our
degree-
final. These are our
Yeah,
final. Our
because,
final
because a
comments.
4-year degree is just like going to any university.
Good.
at
So
the time.
the
things have
entry
changed.
requirements will be higher.
Of course.
Good. That is how to make sure that people go to school because they want to be teachers.
No, I mean there are a number of people who want to be teachers. There are some probably who didn't, but they can be.
But are we going to
converted.
pay them
let,
well
Let
enough?
me tell you, when I went to the US, it wasn't my dream job to be a teacher, but I got converted.
But the system was good.
Yeah,
The
no,
system
no,
was
it's-
supportive.
Okay, gentlemen, I've just been informed happily by my production that there's part 2 of this discussion next week.
But let me make this one. What you want to wrap up? You see, the challenge is not just with pre-service when
Okay.
people are entering.
Of course.
It's with the pool of teachers out there who are untrained or who are not better qualified to be at this level. So if you look at it, those who come out of the colleges of education or the universities will have the skills.
Okay.
What about those who are already
Who
there?
are already
who
there?
are who form about 60-70% of the teaching force?
It's a great focus for our conversation, but we'll have to wrap up this one here and we'll continue next week. It's 50 minutes to the top of the hour. This is the Super Morning Show on Joy FM. My guests really want to continue. I want to hear from you. But when you refuse the Deputy Minister of Education, you know it's critical. But we'll go for these messages when we come back. We'll talk about the Pop Chain concert coming up on the 29th of September. Stay with us. This is the Super Morning Show.
To be an entrepreneur, to be self-employed, and to